here with Kristin Boyd, and the reason I wanted to bring Kristin in here and talk to you was because about 3 months ago, I think maybe even before I told you I had cancer, you told me the story of faith and what you and your husband Jeff did back when you really had to scrape to get by at that time. And could you just recap the story with me a little bit about your faith and what you ended up doing? And it was a story that touched me so much that I still try to tell the story, and I know I miss out and I screw up, so I figured I might as well just have you say it on camera if you don't mind.
It's just a little story. I was pregnant with my first baby, and I had a horrible first trimester. I was very, very, very sick. I couldn't work. I was trying to work from home as much as I could, taking care of my husband, who's a realtor's real estate files, and we were attending Saddleback Church, and we went every Sunday, and we thought we were faithful churchgoers, and we never missed a Sunday. But one thing that we didn't do consistently is tithing.
Donating money
money back to the church, giving to God what was already His, and it wasn't ours to begin with. We are givers. We like to donate our money and our time and everything, but it isn't consistent, and it didn't always go straight back to the church until real estate got really hard for us in the end of 2008. It was the last quarter of 2008, and I was very sick, and we lost everything. The medical bills were piling in. I ended up having to go on Medi-Cal to get help with the pregnancy. I was in and out of the hospital, lost 30 pounds the first few weeks of my pregnancy, and we desperately needed a paycheck, and we were at the point where we couldn't even eat. We had to choose between paying a bill or eating dinner sometimes, and it was really hard. If we bought food, it would usually be macaroni and cheese or something. My sister was living with me at the time, and I kept our rent going because she was living with us. Otherwise, we probably would have just, I had a cat, and I remember going, well, what will I do with my cat if I have to live in my car or a hotel or something until we can get on our feet? And my sister lived with us at the time, and I just remember going, we have to somehow keep paying rent even if we don't pay anything else, because I can't tell my sister that she doesn't have a place to live. And we didn't have anything. My car got taken away. I didn't have a car. My mom lent us money so that we could just buy cars to get us by. So they were not great cars, but they got us from point A to point B, cheap $1,500 cars. And one day we went to church, and Rick Warren was preaching that Sunday, and it was about tithing, and it was about how you can't outgive God. And we had one deal in escrow at that time, and we had planned that we would tithe that Sunday. So it was just really strange that the sermon was actually about tithing the day that we decided that we were going to give to God.
Did you already have an idea of what you guys were going to give?
We really were just going to give 10%. We were going to give the bare minimum. And it was all we had left in our savings, and we really didn't have it to give.
Even though you guys were making decisions about food or rent, bill or food,
we were going to give 10% of what we had back to the church, which is really nothing. We had one deal in escrow, and that was it. And that deal was really shaky. It didn't even look like it was going to close. So we didn't know where our money was going to come from or anything. And so we did. We sat there in the congregation, and Rick Warren was talking about tithing, so we gave what we could that Sunday. The deal closed that week, so we got a commission check, which was a godsend. You can't outgive God. We gave what we could give that week. The deal closed that following week, so we got a commission check. So Jeff and I looked at each other, and we said, well, we know what we have to do. We have to tithe this Sunday. So we didn't know we hung on to that commission check because we didn't have anything else in escrow. We didn't know what was going to happen to us, and we knew we were going to need all the money that we could get. But we went to church the next Sunday, and we gave the entire remainder of the check. So we had $3,000 that we could give, and that's it. And we dropped the whole thing in the plate. And I still remember the plate passing us, and it was like slow motion, and I could feel my spinal cord on the back of the chair because I was so frail and skinny from being so sick with my pregnancy and everything. And when that plate passed and I dropped the check, tears just were falling down because
you had no backup.
I had nothing. We had gone to all the family we could go to. We had already borrowed. We had already begged. We already did everything that we could do, but we said we can't outgive God. And when you have nothing else left but faith, then that's when your faith is most prominent. So we dropped all of our money, the entire commission check, into the offering plate, and went home that day, and we were sad about it, but we had faith in God that He was going to provide for us, and we didn't know how. And we thought for a minute, are we stupid? I mean, how can you be so silly, to just think money's just going to appear? But we just believed that He would take care of us. And the very next day I got a call from Kevin Sanchez, and he asked me for my resume. And out of nowhere.
Did you know Kevin at that time?
Kevin was the listing agent on the deal we closed.
And he said to you? And
he said, you kicked butt in that escrow, and I want to know if you're looking for work, and I don't know if you are, I don't know, but I want to find a spot for you because you were so good in that escrow. And I had circulated like at least 200 resumes before this. Even though I was so sick that I couldn't work, I was looking for work anyways, to try and pay the bills, So I went on as many interviews as I could. I could not get a job. I couldn't. It was such a hard time in the market to find a job for anything. And Kevin just asked me for my resume and my salary history, and then offered me, he met with us that coming Monday. Both Jeff and he hired Jeff as an agent, hired me as his assistant. He didn't have a spot for me. That was the craziest thing of all. He didn't have a spot for me. He beat my salary requirements and history. He paid me more than I had made anywhere else. And he saw what I had made and what I was told by other employers that I was worth. And we haven't worried about money since then. We've faithfully given, we've faithfully tithed, we learned our lesson, and we've just had faith in God.
The viewer probably wants to know, what about your pregnancy? How did that go? Is everything all good?
Yeah, so I had my baby, and she was born big and beautiful, and then the funny thing is Kevin he supported me through the whole pregnancy. He said, take off as much time as you need. I loved my job so much, and I was so grateful that God and Kevin and everything came together, and I had this opportunity. So I had the baby. Jamie is her name, and she's a spunky little 4-year-old now, but she was born, and I took her to work with me after 2 weeks of having her, and she sat right next to me, and she helped me with real estate and got her training going, and then 4 months later I got pregnant again. And I had my son, and then 4 months after my son was born, I got pregnant again. I had my third baby, and I was just, that lesson in my life was so important. Family is all you need. You don't need anything else. You just need your faith in your family, and just keep your head down.
I'm trying not to cry.
Aww.
High five. You're the best. Thank you, Kristin, for your story.
You're welcome.